It's big alright. This is a model of an ultra-class mining wheel loader, and the maker of the wheel machine is Komatsu. There's a nice picture of it on the box, and it's the WE1850 wheel loader. And it's the latest version of this wheel loader in this class size. On the other side there's a photo of the machine at work, and if we look underneath there's a tiny badge which says that the model is made by Weiss brothers and it's model number 034.
Let's weigh it up.
The giant hand cranes have got some work to get the box on the weighbridge, and it's 6 pounds 12 ounces, which is over 3 kilograms. Without any more mucking about, let's open the box and see what's inside. We have the usual pair of expanded polystyrene trays, and in the top there's a bag containing some parts that have to be fitted. The trays are factory sealed, so there's a bit of knife work to do, and when we lift the lid there's the model sitting inside. It is protected by soft paper, and you have to carefully lift the model out. There are no instructions with the model, and there are some parts to fit, and here we see them laid out. There are a number of handrail pieces to fit, and mostly they go in pretty well, but one or two are a little bit loose, so you have to adjust them a bit to get them to stand properly straight. So don't worry about any wonky ones you see here. There's a big light bar that presses into holes at the top of the cab roof, and that's a good fitting piece. There are also a couple of lights which sit at the end of long stalks, and they have to be fitted on platforms on either side. The two big exhaust stacks have their own special mesh enclosure, and that drops easily into place.
Let's weigh it up again.
So the complete model is carefully lifted on, and it weighs 5 pounds 6 ounces, or just over 2.4 kilograms of heaviness. For the detail we dive straight underneath, and you can see that the big bucket has a black finish on the underside. Detailing around the front axle is fairly simple, and in the middle there are a couple of folding ladders which we'll see later, and some cutouts through into the engine bay. The big rear axle is modelled, and the rest is fairly simple. Looking at the back of the machine there's the Komatsu name and some lights, and a very nice quality mesh grille on the radiator cover. Tiny graphics and towing holes are included. On the right side the graphics are very sharp, and there's some very high quality equipment modelling. There's an access stair with metal handrails, and in this view you can see the chunky tyres. The wheels also have tiny warning graphics applied. Looking down into the engine is impressive because there are even graphics applied there, and you can see that the warning notices are very legible. The high detail continues with more equipment and metal grab rails, and moving between the wheels on this side there's a full length access ladder. All of the access platforms have a very high quality mesh, and you can see there are big hydraulic hoses running to the loader arm rams. Everywhere you look there is some pleasing details. And if we go to the back left side, you can see there's a hydraulically activated set of stairs. And there's also detailed equipment underneath. On this side there's an impressive array of chromed equipment. And looking closely at the pivot point you can see there are big hydraulic hoses crossing. Again, the application of tiny graphics catches the eye. And a close-up view on the side of the equipment shows you how good the graphics are. Looking on top of the engine bay and there's equipment at the rear, and there's a textured walkway surface along the top. The enclosure for the exhaust pipes is a very fine mesh. Outside the cab there's a very nicely modelled fire extinguisher, and around the cab there are metal grab rails, and on top you've got what looks like air conditioning equipment and air horns, and there's that big light bar. And it's great that the mirrors are properly reflecting. Moving to the loader arms, and there are highlighted lifting eyes, and you can see that there's some nice hydraulics detailing. Between the loader arms there are small mesh steps leading up, and there are chromed connectors at the end of the hydraulic hoses. The big bucket has got usable lifting eyes, and the detailing of the teeth is impressively done. A nice touch is that the bucket has a see-through section at the top, and that is properly reproduced. On the back of the bucket there's a sign that says £120,000, but for UK viewers that's not the price of the model. Here are a set of comparisons with the previous version of the model, which was the L1850. And that shows you that this is pretty much a completely new model. And just like the real machines, the new model is much bigger than the old version. Back underneath and the wheels spin together, and you can see that the rear axle has a good amount of oscillation. The front wheels are also fixed to a common axle, and if we look at the steering across the pivot point, you get a decent angle. A small feature underneath is the two ladders, and they sit in special holders and you can pull them out. With the model right side up, you can see how that works, and it's a small feature that has been implemented well. At the rear there's a hydraulic access stair, and that can be raised when the machine is in its working mode. Both the cab doors can be opened and a good angle achieved, and you can also open the rear radiator cover. And if that's not enough for you, you can open the next radiator cover. Let's now see the machine out in the cranes etc. mine, and because of the model's heavy weight, it's a very smooth roller. Let's now set the steering angle, and as the wheels are fixed to common axles you might expect some skidding, but in fact it rolls really well even when it's turning. And of course the steering does give you some interesting poses. We saw that the rear axle oscillates, and it does that so the machine can travel over rough ground. And here we see a test run running over a rock. Well, something that looks like a rock anyway. Next we take a look at the all-important loader arm functions. And firstly the bucket has very good cut and carry angles. Lifting the bucket is a bit of a test of strength, and that's because the rams are very stiff. At the maximum height we can try and tip the bucket, but the tipping angle is a little bit shallow compared to what the real machine can achieve. But there's no problem with the model loading a suitable sized mining truck. Of course, if you've got a serious mining fleet, one wheel loader is never enough. But one thing to note is that the model has not been designed to be stripped down to a transport load, although a skilled collector might be able to detach some parts. This is certainly a very impressive model of the Komatsu WE1850 by Weiss brothers. It follows the traditions of the previous versions of this model with its very high level of detailing. The functionality also works well. Of course, a model like this always looks particularly good when it's paired with others. So if you're looking for a large mining model that's a great display piece, this one is excellent.